Hi everybody, welcome to the Emery's Memories channel. I'm your announcer, Gary Beatty. This channel was created to feature interviews by Ralph Emery. There are over 125 interviews by Ralph for you to enjoy on this channel. This channel has also become a collection point for rare and in some cases never before seen shows and interviews. What you're about to see is one of 14 classic interviews hosted by the LeGarde Twins from Sydney, Australia. It's part of a TV series they created, and it's called Down Home, Down Under. Now, these interviews have remained in their private collection, and they've never aired on radio or television until now. And here's their one-on-one interview with Jeannie C. Riley.
Welcome back to LeGarde Twins Down Home, Down Under. Now here's my brother Tom to tell you about our very special guest.
I'd like to tell you a story. Those 7 words that compose the opening line of a memorable, incomparably successful Harper Valley PTA, sales which exceeded 8 million records internationally.
That's right, Tom. And when vocalized in her own distinctive style, these words were destined to change music history and her life forever. Due to a great writer, Tom T. Hall, for a once-in-a-lifetime hit song, Harper Valley PTA, and our special guest is the beautiful Jeannie C. Riley. Welcome to the show, Jeannie.
Oh, I'm so
G'day,
glad
Jeannie.
to be here.
I'm Ted, and that's my brother Tom.
I'm always Tom.
We worked together in Oregon. I remember meeting you. You were wonderful then, and I'm enjoying you today.
Well, we're like wine. We get better with age, you know. keep rolling, keep
Thank
rolling.
you for saying that. I'm a grandmother now.
Really?
I'm a real Grammy winner. My grandson calls me Grammy.
You know what they say? That age is not the flight of years, but the dawning of wisdom. Isn't that a good one?
Oh, I like that.
Hey, Jeannie, how did all this Harper Valley PTA start? How were you introduced to the song? How did you come by the song?
I had a songwriter friend that I had recorded some demos for, some demonstration tapes for his songs, who wrote for the publishing company that Shelby Singleton owned. Shelby Singleton also had just started a new label called Plantation Records. Mm-hmm. And he was listening to a tape of me singing one of my songwriter friend's songs. And he said, whoever this girl is, you go get her. And I've got a song on my shelf that was pitched to me, and he didn't like the artist that had brought it in, didn't like the way it was done. He said, but if I get these 2 together, I'll cut a #1 record. And he said, in fact, I'll cut a #1 pop and country record. And with a little bit of coercion, because I was trying to hold out for something like RCA. See, I wanted to be like the voice coming out of the megaphone that the dog was looking down. Whoever heard of Plantation Records, you know? So my friend really twisted my arm and got me into the studio with Shelby Singleton, and the rest is history. I had goosebumps while I was recording it, and the finished product that you heard on the air was recorded in a second take. It only took 15 minutes in the studio to do that whole record.
It's totally different today, the way they go in and lay the basic rhythm track, then they bring you in, and then they lay the voice track down. But that was it was just inspirational. Was Tom T. Hall at the session?
He wasn't. He was sitting in Tootsie's Orchid Lounge.
Writing another one.
Probably on a napkin or something. And now this has always been told to me. And I asked Tom about it, and he said, probably it was the case. He said, there's been a lot of water under the bridge, but probably that's the way it happened. Somebody in the studio, and it was supposed to be a closed session, but everybody was calling somebody and saying, hey, you've got to come down and hear this record. It's going to make musical history for Nashville. And Tom T. Hall is one of the recipients of those phone calls that were made from the studio that night. And he literally ran from Broadway down to 16th Avenue at Columbia Studio A, where we recorded Harper Valley. Oh. And he was there for the playback, and I noticed him.
Had goosebumps.
Yes, he was rubbing his arms, goosebumps. I was doing the same thing.
Doing this, putting, I could hear the
money.
Oh, listen, I went home that night, and I called my mother, who lived back in Texas, and I couldn't afford long-distance telephone calls in those days. But for some reason or other, I just thought by the time the bill comes in, I can pay it. Yeah. I really thought that, you know. That's faith. And I called her, and I said, Mama, I just recorded the next #1 song in the nation. And of course she
What did she say? What did she
she
say?
said, Jeannie, now I've been hearing that you're going to do this or that. And I said, yeah, but I mean it this time. You watch and see. It'll sell 1 million copies. Well, I listened to it overnight and all the next day with excitement growing each time I listened. And I called her back the next night and I said, Mama, forget that 1 million. It's going to sell 3 million. And it outdid even that, of
Well, it
course.
sold over 8 million copies. Jeannie, then can you relive those moments, or have you relived those moments many, many times? The excitement, the enthusiasm of knowing that you've got an international smash. Must be beautiful, huh?
Tell us a little bit
Oh,
about...
I couldn't eat or sleep for about 2 weeks.
Would you tell us a little bit about your life growing up in Texas? What part of Texas are you from?
Midwest, out where
town?
the wind blows and the cotton grows. And
What's the name of the town?
Anson, Texas. It's close
Anson?
to Abilene. A-N-S-O-N, Anson, Texas.
What was it like back then?
Everybody was just simplistic. My parents were very hard-working, honest people.
What did they do?
They loved
Jeannie?
country music. My dad was an auto mechanic. Before that, he was a sharecropper farmer. My mother was a cotton picker. In fact, they got married.
Did you ever pick cotton?
They worked in the cotton fields up until the afternoon the day they got married, and they were back out in the fields the next morning after the honeymoon.
Did you ever pick cotton, Jeannie?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I picked just enough to earn an allowance, but my folks picked enough to make a living.
Oh.
But my mother went to nursing school and eventually became an LVN, they call it in Texas, a licensed vocational nurse. So he was a mechanic, she was a nurse at the time that I recorded Harper Valley PTA. And it changed their lives a lot. People were calling them from all over the United States because it was reported that Oscar and Nora Stevenson lived in Anson, Texas. And they loved it. They never changed their number and certainly didn't get an unpublished one because that's the most excitement and attention they'd ever had in all their lives.
Jeannie, we have a little town in the state of Queensland called Texas. The town is called Texas. And growing up as kids in Mackay, Queensland, we used to go around singing a song about beautiful, beautiful Texas, not realizing that when we grew up that it was a song written about the big state of Texas. So I think the Australians and the Texans, we feel, are like kissing cousins. Very outgoing, friendly, and there's been a lot of jokes told about Texans and the Australians. What's happening to Jeannie C. Riley now, as far as recording-wise?
Well, I have an album that's in the can. It's already recorded now, that we've titled Home Run. It's a down-home project. Things like Why Don't Anybody Stay Home No More, Catch a Still Morning, you know, Stop and Smell the Roses of Life, Spend Time with Your Loved Ones, that kind of an idea. And
It's a beautiful concept.
it fits me and it fits my spirit. I love my family. I love the Lord, the Creator of all these things that we're supposed to stop and pay attention to and appreciate. And I don't know what label that it'll be on, but I think it's the best thing I've done and the most different thing I've done since Harper Valley PTA.
Now, what about the project Total Woman? Wasn't that your concept too? Was that a previous album that you had out? Total Woman.
Up until this latest one that I just told you about, Total Woman, other than the Harper Valley album, is my favorite. And certainly it's more me than even Harper, because I wrote most of the songs on the Total Woman album, including the title song. And I was given free rein with the producer and my lead guitarist who was there in Charlotte, North Carolina, is where we recorded it. Just to get to do what we wanted to do, and it came out so raw and natural, and I love that.
I love the title.
What makes a total woman, in your opinion?
Well,
You have to think a little bit.
you know, any serious question always goes back to God. If I have fellowship with Him and everything's right in my heart, and I have peace of mind, then I have peace with you, and I'm able to share joy, and with my family, with everybody I meet out on the road. I'm able to entertain and have something to leave the people besides just a few songs. I can leave them with some love and some truth, and that makes me feel total if I am able to give to people.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll come back and we'll carry on the conversation and find out exactly what you're doing with your career. We're talking with our special guest, Jeannie C. Riley, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
We're talking with our very special guest, the lovely Jeannie C. Riley. Jeannie, you've branched out into the gospel field. You know, did you have a, I'm sure, Christian background? Has that been a...
Yes, I did. I was blessed with a great heritage. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was a minister for about 50 years before he passed away. And his life was the most consistent that I ever observed. He always loved people and gave opportunities to people. If he had a piece of bread on his table, you could come in and share it, and somehow it was always multiplied. Even though he didn't have a lot monetarily, there was always enough. And it's kind of like the little boy in the Bible that shared his loaves and fishes with a multitude. People would come in for meals, and this was back just a few years after the Great Depression. My mother has told me a lot about this. People would be sitting at their table, and more would drop in, and there was always enough for everybody. And they would always give people a place to stay, and he would travel around, never owned a car, but he would thumb rides around from town to town and preach on street corners, and I thought that took a lot of courage, and I always respected him so much. And yet I had to find out if, you know, there was another way for myself besides the way that he preached. And
was he a preacher?
Yes, he was a minister, Nazarene. Anyway, I later discovered in my own life that he was telling the truth. So.
Jeannie, in your own life, and particularly in show business, sometimes your schedules can become so busy, and you can get away from the real values of life. Did you find that as years went on, you became more sensitive, say, to the needs of people around you, to your family, and to your fans?
Oh, definitely. I think that any of us, the younger we are, the more we think about ourselves, don't you think?
Yeah.
I can remember at 13 years of age thinking that I had just took a bite of the apple and knew everything. And my poor old wonderful parents, they didn't know anything because they didn't grow up in the age that I was growing up in, you know. The older I got, the more I discovered I needed to learn, you know. And the more you give over to the knowledge that older folks have learned something, they've lived longer, they know more than you do.
Well, the wisdom, you know, they say about wisdom and learning, wisdom is knowing what to do with what you already know. And I know everybody goes through the same experience in life growing up. So are you doing a lot of traveling right now?
We've been off the month of January, but we start touring again this next week, beginning with Tampa, Florida, a couple of days at a fair down there, and putting together the new group. This is the week of rehearsals and things, and we tour a lot. And on the schedule this year, we've got lacking, I think, about 15 shows already scheduled for this year, what we did the whole last year. So I think we're going to have a real busy year of traveling, and that's okay. My family travels with me.
They do?
My grandbaby gets to go because his mama's my backup singer and his daddy's my sound man.
How old is the grandbaby?
About 27 months old.
I love this, your turquoise jewelry. Have you always liked turquoise? Is this just a new thing for Jeannie C. Riley?
Well, a few years ago when this kind of jewelry was so big, before plastic took over and it kind of phased it out, I got this set, I think out in Iowa, and it was made by an Indian chief. He made two sets. One is in a museum and the other is on me. But it's been in it's been in a drawer for quite a few years because it's been out of style. But now then the Aztec look is back in, and I got something to wear.
Now, do you select your own clothes, or do you have some people go out and... How do you keep yourself so trim? You're so, you know, you look great.
I have a treadmill at home, and I have to exercise because I love to eat.
Hey, when are you coming back to see your friends in Australia?
Can I say hi to John Hanson
and Bernie Stahl? You can say hello to anybody.
They carried me to Australia about 8 years ago, and I want them to bring me back. And guys, if you don't, I want somebody to, because I have to tell you that the only place I've ever traveled to, and I've loved all my travels, but the only place I ever cried when I had to leave to come back home was Australia. So like you said a while ago, the people are so warm and so friendly and helpful. They'll do anything for you. The people there are so relaxed, and the country is beautiful, and I've never been anywhere. I enjoyed so much.
Right?
It did. I wanted to stay, and I was there for 6 weeks and still didn't have enough of it.
Hey,
Come
Jeannie,
back down and see us.
Jeannie, we want to thank you for being on the program.
Thank you, Tom.
As we
Thank
say,
you,
you're a
Ted.
bonza Sheila. And we love your fair dinkum.
Yeah, I forgot that fair income. I forgot.
What a great classic one-on-one interview with Ted and Tom, the LeGarde Twins. I want to tell you about their book, The LeGarde Twins, Showbiz Hustlers. Let me take you back to the beginning. These twin boys walked 15 miles across the bushlands of Australia to a tent with a dirt floor and folding chairs. As the projector started up, the movie appeared in black and white on the screen, and there for the first time, they saw Hop Along Cassidy. They ran almost all the way home and told their mom, "We're going to become cowboy singers." Let me read the introduction to Showbiz Hustlers. Being raised in the bushlands of Australia in the 1930s and 40s was a rough and hard life. We didn't think about it back then because that's how life was. You have to live the hard life to understand it. But we also made a picture in our minds of the kind of life we wanted to lead, and it became a beacon that has guided us on our long journey in show business. We hope and pray that our book falls into the hands of our fellow strugglers and dreamers to give them unfailing encouragement to pursue their hopes and dreams. Above all else, we want to give God all the praise and glory for our long lives and for His mercy and grace in dealing with us throughout the years. So grab the reins and ride over 1 million miles with us from the bushlands of Australia across 7 continents through 23 countries and 45 of the 50 states in America. Let's ride. Ted and Tom LeGarde. They appeared in Vegas, movies, and TV shows. And for you Trekkies out there, get this. This book is packed with pictures and stories and is a must-read. We'll put a link below the video so you can get your copy of The LeGarde Twins, Showbiz Hustlers. The LeGarde Twins, Showbiz Hustlers makes a great gift. This book is about twin brothers from Australia who had a dream, and it came true. This is Gary Beatty, and as Ted and Tom LeGarde would say, "G'day, mate."